He figured, why bother taxing the gas in your truck when he can just make sure you're never allowed to own one? Going to trade in a sturdy, reliable, rust-proof pickup truck for a plastic pop can on wheels because some deputy minister in Ottawa wearing a turtleneck said so.
How does a new tax sound? Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today we've got the NDP floating this idea of a new tax, because what else would they propose? We've also got an epic speech as the House winding down here. Conservative Mike Dawson dropping a serious truth bomb, absolutely ripping apart the Liberals. This is probably one of the best speeches I've seen in the House in a long time. Let's jump into this. We got a goofy story here coming from Blacklock's reporter. It says, browsing files commonplace. Federal Labor Board has overturned the firing of a Service Canada clerk caught snooping through employment insurance claims. Evidence in the case shows it was the office culture to poke through private records. So what was happening here? It says here a 39-year-old employee from Richmond Hill, Ontario was fired after she was caught over the span of 16 years accessing files 107 times. She wasn't making money from this. She was doing things like, for example, you're not permitted to verify your son's employment insurance claim has been approved, or search through a client's database to look for the telephone number of an old friend. She was doing weird little things like this 107 times, got fired, then eventually they overturned it, 30-day suspension without pay. Just a lot of funny stuff going on in the government. Next up, we have the most socialist thing I've read in a long time, coming from Blacklock's reporter. It says trading tax could happen. A $49 billion a year tax on financial trades and transactions, first proposed by New Democrats 26 years ago, could happen. So they've been trying this for a long time, says the Liberal appointed chair of the Senate Budget Committee. You could get revenue from people. Let's say you put a 2% tax on buying shares, which would mean people who buy them would be paying taxes on the transaction. By doing that, again, this is hypothetical, you would get revenue from the people who have more money than those who cannot buy shares. It's an idea I'd like to hear your thoughts on. So it goes on to say here, it's a hypothetical, but it could happen. What do you think if this government were to decide that when you buy a share, there's a tax on doing so? Are you talking about shares in publicly traded corporations? Asked Senator Marshall. Yes, replied Monkion. Great deal of revenue. So the NDP floating this old idea of putting a tax on buying shares in the stock market. Every single stock you buy, for example, say if you bought $100 worth of Air Canada, you'd be paying $2 in tax to the government. $1,000 you'd be paying $20. $10,000 you'd be paying $200 to the government. Doesn't matter if you win or lose in the trade, you still have to pay the government. Once again, the investor, as it always is, takes all of the risk. The government has no risk in this. If they were to do this, a more fair thing to do would be taxing the revenue off of a gain, not just taxing someone for buying shares. Regardless, this is a stupid idea. They shouldn't be taxing the purchase of stocks. On this episode of Far Off Ripoff, we got this one, strengthening health systems for integrated and transformative SRHR. So basically this is women's health, as it says here, reproductive health care, population, policy, and administrative and management. What exactly is this? It says outcome, increased resilience of health systems, delivered integrated quality and gender responsive SRH services. I'm not going to say what SRH is. Word with S and has the word X in it. You can probably figure out. R is reproductive and H is health. This includes the A word here to women, adolescents, and marginalized communities in targeted regions of Benin, Mozambique, and Nigeria. This is a women's health spending of $20.9 million in Africa. Is there a paper trail? Should I email this one too? None of these companies are going to give me squat. Once again, we have Canadian families. We have women in Canada. If they want to spend this on women, they can spend it on women in Canada who need help. $20 million, $21 million. Just flushing this off to Africa where there's no paper trail, no problems for the Liberal Party. In other news, we have 5 suspects facing charges after sting of bad times bank robberies. Of course, because it's Canada. It's robberies every day in Canada.
Suspects are now facing charges after a string of bank robberies across Ontario, including one here in Barrie. Police say employees were forced to the ground at gunpoint in 6 of the 8 heists, with more than $2 million stolen in total. The incident here in Barrie happened at a credit union located on Alliance Boulevard. That was on November of 2023. 4 suspects have been arrested, but one man from Ajax is still on the run and now faces additional charges. The OPP say the investigation, dubbed Project Opal, is ongoing.
It's sad that this has become normalized. This is literally every day in this country. Next up, we got CCFR posting this one. This is quite the watch. Mike Dawson gives epic speech on Carney's push to end gas-powered vehicles by 2035. This is a slap in the face to every tradesman, farmer, hunter, and contractor in Canada.
It's always a pleasure to stand and speak in the People's House, Madam Speaker. In my riding of Miramichi Grand Lake, we've got great people, folks who don't ask for much from the government except to defend our borders, protect our streets, and then kindly get out of the way. But now we have a Liberal government trying to tell us what kind of car we can drive. This government's plan to ban the sale of gas-powered vehicles by 2035 isn't just out of touch. It's out to lunch. This is the kind of thing you dream up after a latte in a downtown Toronto espresso bar, not after a hard winter on the Renews Plaster Rock Highway. This is a plan of an urban elite which is blind to the hard fact of geography, weather, industry, dignity of hard work borne by everyday Canadians who work hard for a living. Let me put it plainly, where I come from, a truck isn't a toy. It's not a fashion statement. It's not a mobility solution, as one Liberal minister so helpfully called it. It's a lifeline. It hauls the lumber, tows the boat, it plows the driveway. It gets your kids to hockey and your parents to the doctor. You can't strap 10 sheets of drywall to the roof of a hatchback and call it progress. And unless someone figured out how to get 500 kilometers out of a battery in minus 30 with no charger in sight, I suggest the Liberals stop trying to reinvent the wheel. Any path to a clearer energy future must proceed at the pace of possibility, not ideology. This Prime Minister says he is all about progress. Well, let me tell you something about progress. Progress isn't forcing a single mom in Blackville to buy a $70,000 electric car she can't charge and doesn't want.
You can't get it more straightforward than that. It's forcing Canadians to buy electric vehicles because Brookfield and Mark Carney and all these Liberals who are invested in this will make money from it. They all have their greasy blind trust that we can't see what they're invested in. They don't know what they're invested in. Oh, I have no idea what I spent my money on, my life savings on, and have someone else taking care of my blind trust for me. I don't know what they're doing. Are they selling my stocks? I don't know. Look at this. All the ones with the green leaves here. These are all eco projects directly connected to Brookfield Asset Management. So this is why they're banning it. Brookfield will be enriched by it. Just think about this. What kind of government bans a stable, functional, foundational piece of technology in society? This is absolutely insane. At the very least, if they wanted to push their agenda here and make Brookfield rich, they should just be pushing their agenda, not trying to force Canadians to buy it. They're showing their hand. They got too arrogant with it. It's just too easy to see this. I mean, you just look, look at this. You look at these green leaves on here. They're all across this thing. These are all different projects. In one way or another, a lot of these are directly connected to this EV mandate. The biggest ones here, electric charging station through Enercare, Joel's Technology Group. It's just every single thing. I mean, you've got the Infinium green jet fuel. Just wait for it. Mark Carney's already talked about reducing people flying, and then when they do fly, forcing airlines to use this green jet fuel. He did it in the UK. He's going to do it here as well. Greed will make people do awful things.
Progress isn't replacing the family mechanic with a government-approved software update technician. Progress isn't shutting down the dealerships, the mechanics, and the supply chains that keep rural Canada moving. You want to build electric vehicles? That's fine. But you don't have to kill the combustion engine upon which our modern society depends on it. Let us remember, Madam Speaker, that freedom isn't about the right to vote. It's about the right to choose. And let's be real here. This is not about the environment. If this were about the environment, we would instead be debating national charging network and a plan to build more reliable charging stations. If this were about the environment, we would be talking about grid resilience, rural access, battery disposal, and cost, both present and future, of electricity. Does this government have a plan where everyone in New Brunswick plugs their Liberal mandated vehicles in at 6 p.m. in January? In Miramichi, our power flickers when the next door neighbor turns the microwave on during the evening news. Our electrical infrastructure can barely stay ahead of current demand. So what do the Liberals decide to do? Let's burn out the grid. Let's double electricity bills. Let's crash the system and blame it on the provinces.
I mean, do they want us sitting in the dark, freezing? The power grid just shuts down because everyone plugs in their EVs? This is not a thought through plan, or is it? Is it thought through? And this is exactly what they want to do to us. You have to really wonder, because they know that this is going to happen. They know the grid can't support this, yet they're still forcing this upon us. I somehow think that even some Liberal voters are not going to be down for this. There's going to be some major pushback next year once this starts rolling out.
Madam Speaker, we know that the Liberal government prefers Canadians to stay at home. We saw it during the pandemic, and we see it today in the federal civil service. Still on Zoom, still on mute, still on break. So maybe that's the plan. Maybe they don't want you to drive at all. Maybe they don't want you to leave your home or go to work or take your kids to the rink. Maybe they want Canadians to be at home, dependent, plugged in and powerless, because this government has slogans, not solutions. Now let me be clear about one thing. This government has a strategy. Just 1 month ago, in the middle of a federal election, what was their promise? We are going to pretend we are conservatives and axe the carbon tax. That's what the Canadians heard. But what did they hear? Didn't they hear? What the Liberals didn't say was their real plan was to replace the tax with something even worse. They didn't say that they wanted to ban the very vehicles Canadians use to work, raise family, and live their lives. Madam Speaker, this wasn't a change of heart, it was a sleight of hand. This Prime Minister didn't kill the carbon tax, he replaced it with something even worse, carbon ban. He figured why bother taxing the gas in your truck when he can just make sure you're never allowed to own one.
On top of that, throw in carbon credits. Anything that is polluting to the environment, you have to pay Brookfield for their carbon credits to neutralize your evil carbon. This is so stupid because, as Polyev pointed out in the campaign, before the campaign, a year or so before, all we have to do is build a bunch of LNG, ship it over to India, and we'll be carbon negative 1 times, 2 times, 5-fold. It has nothing to do with the environment, because if they wanted to do it, there's an easy way there, which Pierre already pointed out. This is all about money. It always comes back to money and greed.
This government didn't ban carbon pricing because they changed their mind. They abandoned it because they were blaming the very thing they used to tax. How very liberal of them, Madam Speaker. They don't need to tax gas when their plan is to outlaw the engine that burns it. Madam Speaker, the only thing this plan is guaranteed to reduce is freedom. Freedom to choose what you drive. Freedom to work where you want, live where you want, and drive what suits your family and your job. It's a typical liberal government overreach, plain and simple. And here's the kicker, Madam Speaker. Hardworking New Brunswickers are not going to trade in a sturdy, reliable, rust-proof pickup truck for a plastic pop can on wheels because some deputy minister in Ottawa wearing a turtleneck said so. People in Miramichi Grand Lake don't take kindly to being told that they are backwards just because they know how to run a chainsaw and change their own oil.
So to be fair, some of the EVs, like Teslas, are very nice, and even some of the ones from China are really nice. And if they really care about the environment, they'd allow those Chinese EVs in Canada, making it the cheapest solution for everyone. Once again, though, this isn't about the environment, it's about money. Something else I want to point out, I saw a video of guides explaining that cars built after 2015, due to emission standards, they often turn off and turn on a lot. If you're sitting idle at a light, your car will turn off, and then as you start to go again, it refires up automatically. I always wondered about that, because sometimes you're near a vehicle at a light and then you'll hear it fire up automatically, but obviously the person's not going to turn off their own car and then turn it back on. Turns out it's really hard on the gearbox or the mechanism that does that, because you'll be firing up your vehicle 15 times for a single drive versus just once when you turn the car on. So it wears out your car a lot faster, and that's just, once again, it's another emission standard. Usually cars do have an off button to turn that off, though. It gets reset every single time you turn your car on, though. So you have to basically push that button every time and then turn your car on to avoid your car firing up and shutting down, firing up and shutting down on a single drive.
And they sure don't want to be lectured by a Prime Minister who spent 10 years sipping champagne at the Bank of England. This plan is a slap in the face to rural Canada. This is a slap in the face to every tradesman, farmer, hunter, and contractor in this country. This is one more example of this government thinking it knows better than the people it's supposed to serve. And let's not forget, once this government takes away your ability to choose what you drive, they won't stop there. Today it's gas vehicles, tomorrow it's your furnace, your wood stove, maybe even your barbecue.
On Vancouver Island here, they're already banning gas furnaces. It's ridiculous. They're mandating people to do heat pumps. I wonder if that's tied in with Train and Enercare, all these heat pump companies directly connected to Brookfield.
You see, Madam Speaker, you can't call it choice when there's only one option on the shelf. This isn't a plan about lowering emissions. It's about increasing control. It's not about saving the planet. It's about control. This is not about climate, it's about compliance. The truth is, this ban won't save the environment, but it will make life harder, colder, more expensive for millions of Canadians. And the people paying the highest price, not the elite, downtown elites, not the Tesla crowd. It will be the diesel mechanics, forestry workers, the young family in Dopetown trying to barely make ends meet. So I say this to the government through you, Madam Speaker. Back off, scrap the ban. Let Canadians decide for themselves. Because the Conservative Party doesn't fear the future, Madam Speaker. We believe in it. We believe in people. We believe in choice. We know that the best decisions don't come from Ottawa. They come from the ordinary Canadians who pay for and live with the consequences. The Conservative Party respects and has faith in common sense of the people of Canada. Because the only thing more dangerous than a government that wants to take away your truck is a government that thinks they know better than the guy that drives it. And if the Prime Minister wants to take away our pickup trucks, he better bring himself a convoy. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
That's a great speech. What's ironic about this, he mentioned Tesla, but David Eby's pulled the subsidies for Tesla in British Columbia. Tesla doesn't get any support from the government, essentially, because of his link with Donald Trump, when really you'd expect them to be backing Tesla because they make electric vehicles. Great speech. This should be put on all news stations to open up eyes of the liberal corruption. Darn tootin' right. Next up, there's a video here coming from New York where Muslim Zohran Mamdi in the Democratic primary for the mayor of New York won, and the people of New York here, these lefties, are freaking out about it. They have no idea what's going on. As this account says here, they'll find out New York will become worse than London. Good luck with that, guys. And here is Zoran speaking on what he plans to do against Donald Trump.
I've proposed is that we raise $10 billion to pay for our entire economic agenda and start to Trump-proof our city, because we know he'll use federal funding as leverage over this city. And we will do so in two key ways. The first is to match the state's top corporate tax rate to that of New Jersey. We are at 7.25%. They're at 11.5%. Corporations can pay it over there. They can pay it over here. And the beauty of it is that it doesn't just apply to corporations headquartered in New York City. Because when you say this, people will say, well, they're going to go to Florida. Mm-hmm. Wherever you are headquartered, as long as you do business in the state of New York, you are taxable for that corporate tax. We're talking about corporations that are making millions of dollars, not in revenue.
We're talking about Brookfield Asset Management, who moved their headquarters to New York. And now they're going to have their taxes jacked by this guy if he becomes mayor. He won the Democratic primary, so he's not mayor. But if he wins, what will Brookfield do? Will they move their headquarters again?
But in profit. And the second is taxing the top 1% of New Yorkers. We're talking about people who make $1 million a year or more, taxing them just by a flat 2% tax increase.
Like Mark Carney? Is he still a New Yorker?
I know if 50 Cent is listening, he's not going to be happy about this. He tends to not like this tax policy, but I want to be very clear. This is about $20,000 a year. It's a rounding error. And all of these things together, they make every New Yorker's life better, including those who are actually getting taxed.
If this guy gets in, he's going to force business out of New York, and that city is going to start to crumble. Just like the UK, but worse, as that other post said. Everyone's declaring him the winner, and yet the general election hasn't happened yet. Yeah. Wow. If they move Wall Street to Florida, my property values will skyrocket. Most of the people left in NYC are moving in will be Muslims working under the table, which is what he wants. This is going to be disastrous for New York.